Thank you for attending the Week of Kindness. Coming up next is another powerful, impactful, amazing speaker. Get your notepad out, get your pen. Let's get ready and enjoy.
Hi there, this is Dr. Mort Orman, and I want to welcome you to How to Stop Getting Angry, Irritated, and Upset. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an internal medicine physician with 40 years of success as an anger elimination and stress elimination expert. And I want to talk to you today about eliminating anger and irritability from your life, eliminating almost all of it, and especially all of the unwanted anger that you'd rather not have. But before we dig in, I have a few questions for you to think about. So how many of you know that anger over time can cause you to get divorced? It can damage your kids. It can cause serious health problems. So think about those things and whether you previously knew about them or not. And the next question is, if you know all that, how come you haven't stopped getting angry? Now, you may think you know the answer to that question. You may think the reason is X or Y or Z, but it's probably not. And today I'm going to show you what the real answer is so that you'll be very clear about what's going on. So once again, I want to welcome you to this talk, How to Stop Getting Angry, Irritated, and Upset, so that you can have a happy marriage, happy kids, and a long, healthy life. This talk is for you if you get angry, irritated, or upset with your spouse or partner more than you'd like. You get angry, irritated, and upset with your kids more than you like. You get angry, irritated, and upset at work more than you like, or you get angry, irritated, and upset with yourself more than you like. Now, for the rest of the talk, instead of saying angry, irritated, and upset, I'm just going to talk about anger in general, but you can understand that it includes all three of those other designations. So today you're going to discover the real reasons why you keep getting angry, even though you might not want to. You'll also discover why nobody until today has told you why you keep getting angry, and how you can stop getting angry, irritated, and upset if you want to. So first, I want to just take a moment to thank you for being here. I know there's lots of other things you could be doing, but you're here to expand your knowledge and awareness about anger, and I commend you for that. I also want to thank Tony Kaufman and the other people involved with putting on this event for giving us and myself and the other speakers the opportunity to share some of our life learnings and knowledge with you, hopefully to improve your life as well. So here's why it's not your fault that you haven't been able to stop getting angry. You see, people have been lying to you about anger and what you can do about it as a human being. People have been lying to you about what really causes your anger to occur. And people have been lying to you about what the best strategy is for dealing with your anger. But that all ends today. Today, you're going to get the magic wand. You're going to get the magic insights that are going to enable you to understand what's going on when you get angry, and also will show you the way that if you're interested, you can learn how to stop getting angry and stop getting irritated, even though not many people know how to do that. And when you do have this magic wand in your possession and this magic understanding, your relationships will go a lot more smoothly. Your kids will have a better life and feel happier and have less of the problems associated with parents who get angry at them. And your health, hopefully, will improve as well. You see, I've been there. I myself had major anger problems, especially in my 20s and my 30s. But I finally discovered how to cure them all, and I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. Now, my anger problems didn't develop early on in my life. I was fortunate to have two loving parents. There was very little anger in the household, and so I didn't grow up in an angry environment, as many people unfortunately do today. Even in high school, things were going pretty smoothly for me. I had the normal social anxieties of growing up as a teenager, but not a lot of anger at that point in my life. My anger really started when I spent 4 years at Duke University in college. That's a picture of me on the lacrosse team before they had all those wild and crazy parties and before they were a national powerhouse, by the way. I met a lot of people that I had never, people from different parts of the country and the world that I had never met before. I start running into problems with having expectations of how people should behave and people not meeting my expectations and expectations of myself that were not being met. And I started to get angry and frustrated with myself pretty easily. Then when I went to medical school, things got progressively worse. I had anxiety issues in medical school. I would get angry at myself very easily. And you go through 7 years of training in how to be a perfectionist, and that kind of rubs off, and you start having a lot of perfectionistic expectations about yourself, fueling a lot of the anger that I felt whenever I didn't live up to the expectations and the standards I had for myself. And then in my last year of residency, I decided to take up tennis. Now, for those of you who may be too young to know who this is John McEnroe, who was in his prime at the time when I was taking up tennis. And he was on TV all the time, and he had a very fiery temper, and he would just, have all kinds of outbursts of anger on the court. And I, too, followed in his footsteps. I saw a lot of myself in him as far as his anger was concerned. I joined a racket club, and I took lessons from a local pro, and I actually got to play the game pretty well, but that was kind of a curse for me because when I would miss an easy shot or I failed to win a point I thought I should win, I would just get furious and stomp around the court and just curse at myself and scream and yell and thrash my racket around and bother the hell out of people who were playing on either side of me. And I just couldn't control it. No matter what I tried to do, I knew I wasn't proud of it. I wasn't happy about it. But I just, no matter what I tried, I could not control my anger. And as you can imagine, that anger was not confined to the tennis court. It came out in all areas of my life, in my relationships with my parents, with my sister, with friends, but also with my patients. I mean, I would get angry at my patients early on in my medical career. And I knew that something had to change. But no matter what I tried to do to stop being angry or to control my anger, it just kept coming out. It just kept being like an automatic type thing. And I truly did not believe that I was ever going to be any different. I just felt that's my personality. That's who I was. I was always going to be an angry guy. And it wasn't until a couple of years into my practice when I made a really wise decision. I didn't realize how wise it was then, but I decided to start doing personal development work. And this is something that a lot of doctors and a lot of busy people don't make the time to do, but I did because I thought it was important. And I knew, how bad a problem my anger was. And so I started attending seminars and workshops and following thought leaders in the personal development space. And I started learning all kinds of things about myself that I never understood about being human, or that I wasn't taught in medical school about what it means to be human. In medical school, they teach you a lot about hearts and livers and kidneys and spleens, but they don't teach you much about the human beings who own those organs. And so I was discovering a lot of things about life and about being human that either I didn't know anything about or I thought I knew things about, but it turned out that those things weren't true. So I discovered I had a lot of system errors in my brain. A lot of things that wherever I got them from, I thought I understood life, I thought I understood human beings, but I really didn't. And the interesting thing about system errors for human beings, unlike for when an error occurs in our computer, when something goes wrong in your computer, you usually get this warning, this flashing light or blue screen or something that tells you there's a serious error going on. The problem with being human is you can have all kinds of errors going on in your brain, all kinds of myths and misconceptions and misunderstandings, and you don't get any warning system. You don't get something that tells you, hey, your ideas are wrong. Hey, you need to change your beliefs about this, or you need to learn more about this. So fortunately, some of the personal development work I did clued me into some of these errors that I hadn't seen before, but have been operating for me for a number of years. So why am I here today? Why am I teaching you this? I'm retired now. I'm no longer in active practice. I spent 23 years practicing medicine, 15 years in a corporate environment. Tired now. Why am I not just sitting home watching Netflix or playing golf or relaxing or taking it easy? And the reason is because I'm still very much a doctor at heart. I've seen what anger does to people, and I don't want that to happen for you. Since I now know what it takes to eliminate anger from a person's life, and most people don't have that knowledge, I feel it's part of my role and my duty as a doctor to share that information, share that knowledge with you, and to share that opportunity with you, because I know that if you can eliminate a lot of the anger from your life, it's going to make a big difference for your health and your well-being and the health and well-being of your family and the people that you're close with or that you work closely with. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. And today you're going to discover how you can no longer lose your cool so you can have a happy marriage, happy kids, and a long, healthy life. But first, we got to talk about the big elephant in the room. I wonder what that could be. Well, there is a big elephant in the room, and that elephant is a belief that you probably have, which is that you don't believe that it's possible to get rid of whatever anger you have in your life. Not for you, not for anyone. This is a very common belief. A lot of people have been given bad information about anger. As I mentioned, they've been lied to about anger, where it comes from, what they can do about it. And they've come to the false conclusion, and they've actually been educated to believe that anger is just a part of life and it's part of being human and there's just nothing you can do about it. You can't escape it. You can't avoid it. Well, that's not really true. And hopefully you'll see that as time goes on, that you actually can get rid of anger. I didn't think it was possible either, but the last 40 years of my life have been amazingly anger-free. And most people would not believe that that was possible. But I accomplished it. I learned how to do it, and you can do the same thing. So do you really want to stop losing your cool so you can have a happy marriage, happy kids, and a long and healthy life? If you do, you're in the right place. Are you in? Are you with me? Let's solve some of the mystery. So what's really causing your anger to occur? Let's dig into this a little more deeply. So here's a common situation that people get angry about. You're on your way to somewhere and you get caught up in a traffic jam and cars aren't moving and a lot of time goes on and you're stuck and you start to get angry or annoyed or upset or frustrated or whatever it is. And the question is, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Well, the problem with human emotions is we always have two kinds of causes going on anytime we have particularly a strong negative emotion, but the same is true for positive emotions as well. So there are always external and internal causes. Now, when you're in a traffic jam, the external cause is pretty obvious. You're stuck in traffic, traffic's not moving. You can see it. Everybody in the other cars can see it. Anybody flying a helicopter over the roadway can see it. So it's obvious what the obvious causes are. But what about the internal causes? The internal causes are not so obvious. So here's what most people see when they try to identify the internal causes. They don't see anything. And the other people around them don't see the internal causes either because they can't. They're inside us. And we usually can't see them because we're not attuned to what they are or to looking for them. But there are lots of things rolling around in our heads that can be causes of discomfort and stress and problems and bad feelings that we don't normally see. So here's just a sampling of some of these kinds of internal conversations we can have with ourselves. I'm ugly. I'm lost. I'm clueless. I'm useless. I'm bad. I'm weak. I'm selfish. I'm unlovable. I'm careless, hopeless, wrong, bad, ugly, evil. I'm a loser. I'm thoughtless. These are all kinds of things that go on inside a lot of human beings, and they're internal, and we don't usually see them unless we're tuned to them. But they cause a lot of mischief in our life. And the same thing is true for our emotions. Not necessarily these specific discussions or thoughts, but some of them may be involved. But there are lots of specific things going on internally when we're having our emotions. So let me just give you an example of how this works for human beings. And I'm going to use the example of a computer to demonstrate for you how this happens. And we'll use this pleasant-looking assistant to help us in the process to understand how the internal causes of our emotions function. So suppose you're sitting in front of this computer, and the assistant tells you to press the A key on the keyboard. So you press the A key, and the letter A appears. Lo and behold. Now, if I asked you what caused the letter A to appear on your screen, your immediate response may be, well, that's obvious. It was pressing the A key that caused the A to appear. And you would not be wrong by saying that. that that was one of the causes. Are there other causes involved about why the A appeared? Well, yes, there are. And if you stop and think about it for a moment, there are a bunch of hidden causes that were also involved. So, for example, inside the computer, there had to be a software program running, usually an operating system, to generally tell the computer what to do. And then there had to be a more specific word processing program to tell the computer that when someone presses the A key, you put a certain configuration of pixels up on the screen to make the letter A and not some other letter or some other symbol. So there are programs running in the background of this computer, and those programs are not visible to us, but they have to be there, or the letter A does not appear on our screen. Well, when we're angry or we have other emotions, there are programs running inside of us, and they have to be there in order for that emotion to occur. If you don't have specific thoughts and specific behaviors in a certain configuration, then you're not going to get the emotion of anger. And you see here, the emotion is obvious on this man's face, and he's obviously engaged in a behavior where he's about to slam the phone down in anger. And these are all part of the programming that occurs in our body and gets triggered whenever we are experiencing any emotion, but anger in particular. So, for example, there's a program running in our bodies when we're angry. Something happens, we get triggered, and inside our bodies, whether we're aware of it or not, most of the time we're not, there are certain generic anger-producing thoughts that get triggered in us, and we think them, not consciously, but unconsciously on a reflex basis. And certain tendencies to behave get triggered in us, which either add to causing the emotion, or it may cause the anger or some other emotion to hang on much longer than it needs to. Instead of anger occurring and being gone in 30 seconds, it may last weeks or months or years. Well, part of that is because of the behaviors that get triggered in us that keep the anger going when it doesn't have to, when we could get rid of it. So let me give you an example of how this all works. This is an example of someone that I treated recently named Frank. Now that's not, and his wife Ginny, that's not Frank and Ginny in this picture, and that's not their RV, but there's just an example. Frank and Ginny were about this age, and they were retired, and their dream was to get an RV and drive around and vacation in their RV in their retirement years. So they spent a lot of time searching, and they finally found a used RV, and they made their preparations and set out on their first trip together. Well, as soon as they started out, things started going wrong. Firstly, Frank had never driven an RV before, so he was unfamiliar with it, and he was getting blown all over the road by the tractor trailers as they sped by him. And then it was a used RV, so things started breaking down right and left, little things that were annoying Frank, and he was just grousing and cursing and yelling, not so much directly at his wife, but my God, she was only a couple feet away, so she was definitely impacted by it. So when they got home from the trip and they both got out of the RV, Ginny turned to her husband and said, "Frank, I am never going on another RV trip with you again until you handle your anger problems." Well, I had met Frank several months earlier on the golf course, just met that one time, didn't have much interaction. He followed me on Facebook, knew what I did. And so the next morning he was on the phone calling me, and we set a time to meet. I sat down with him. He told me his whole life story of how he'd been angry all his life. His family was full of angry people. His brothers and sisters were all angry. His mother was very angry. He had tried to get away from all the anger by removing himself geographically from his family, but he still carried a lot of it with him. So he'd basically been angry all of his life. I still told him, I said, "Frank, if you're willing to do the work, which is not that difficult, I can help you." So we started working together in just 5 one-hour sessions. He started feeling much less angry for the first time in his life. And we completed his treatment in just 10 sessions. And by the end of those 10 sessions, he was hardly getting angry at all. He wasn't even getting angry on the golf course anymore like he used to. And his wife, Ginny, was absolutely astonished at how much he had changed in that short period of time. And since then, they've gone on numerous RV trips together, never like that first one where he was angry and upset all the time. And he's continued to benefit from what I taught him about how to understand the mechanism that causes anger to occur, those internal causes, those thoughts and behaviors, and what to do about them once he recognizes them. So when you know the internal causes of anger, you can truly win the anger game. You can turn your lack of control into understanding and patience. And when you know the internal causes of anger, you can take back control of your anger instead of your anger controlling you anytime you want. You'll also understand exactly why other people get so angry, because as you understand this mechanism in yourself, those thought patterns and behavior patterns are generic and they're consistent for all people whenever they get angry, no matter where they live in the world, no matter what culture they're from. They're always generally thinking in those and acting in those specific ways. So when you understand yourself better, you'll immediately understand other people and why they get angry. And you'll therefore have greater understanding, patience, and empathy when you're around people and they are experiencing anger, not so much you, but they are. So these are some customer service reps, and I've had the opportunity to do trainings for customer service reps because they're in a pretty much in a pickle because all day long people are angry with them. So they're venting their anger at them over the phone, and the customer service reps on the receiving end are usually feeling angry or annoyed that they're being treated that way. So there's a lot of anger going on both ways. And most customer service reps don't understand anger in themselves, and they don't understand it in the people who they're talking with. So I could teach them this understanding, which would not only help them better deal with their own anger on the calls, but it also helps them to appreciate, understand, and have sympathy for and empathy for the people on the other end of the phone who are angry and upset because of some transaction that went bad or something that didn't go their way. So when you know the internal causes of anger, you will better understand why your spouse and your kids get angry, so you can be supportive and won't make things worse. You can obtain more peace and calm because anger robs us of our peace and calmness. It also interferes with our thinking and with our decision making and with our choices. So sometimes you make bad choices out of anger. And it certainly interferes with our sleep. And the more anger interferes with our sleep, the more irritable we become, the more little things bother us that they might not have when we're well rested. So it can be a vicious cycle in a way. It can also affect our health. And when you learn how to have less anger in your life, it means your focus will be better, your decisions will be better, you'll be sleeping better, you'll feel calmer, you'll be happier, and you'll have greater peace of mind. So there are a lot of benefits in learning how to get rid of anger. Now, you may think that only, people who are really aggressive anger, really hostile, road rage type people need to work on their anger. But I can tell you almost all of us can benefit from knowing how to understand our anger better, have less of it in our lives, have less of it in our relationships, less of it at work, and less of it, interfering with our sleep and causing us all kinds of other physical and psychological issues. Another advantage of learning this kind of system and learning how to eliminate most of your anger is you can help persuade other people and help other people realize that this is possible for them too. Because people don't believe that they can live without anger or that they can do much about the anger that they have. They need you to show them that it's possible. People who know you and know how angry you are now, or when you do get angry and see you not get angry in those situations, are going to know that something's changed. You did something, you learned something, and they might be inspired by you to learn something themselves. Your spouse and your kids need you to show them this is possible because currently they probably don't believe it. So you have to be willing to deviate from the crowd. You have to be willing to think differently, understand differently, go after things in a different way than most other people do. Many of who don't go after relief from their anger, they just put up with it and figure they have to live with it. And you have to be willing to take a different path so you can understand what's really going on. Here's another example of a gentleman that I worked with well over 20 years ago named Jim. And Jim was a successful business owner. He had, time I saw him, he was about 45 years old, married with 2 children. And for most of his adult life, he had had like 20 plus years of chronic anger and stress. And he had frequent bouts of anger. He had relationship conflicts at work. He had relationship conflicts at home, and headaches and tense muscles and other physical manifestations of anger and stress. And despite those 20 years of chronic anger and stress, he tried many, many things to get rid of it. and none of them helped. He tried self-help books and self-help programs. He worked for several months with a local stress management psychologist. He tried various anger management techniques. He saw a psychiatrist. Nothing helped. Finally, a friend referred him to me, and I saw him and started working with him. And in only 6 one-hour sessions with me, he began to experience much less anger for the first time in his adult life. I showed him what was wrong with the system he'd been given to both understand and deal with his anger, and I gave him an entirely new system. And for the first time in 20 years, he was finally able to achieve impressive, lasting results. So I continued working with Jim until his course of treatment was over, and then we went our separate ways. I really lost contact with him over that 20-year period. And then recently, I bumped into him at an art exhibit. We had a chance to talk, and he told me he's absolutely thrilled that he learned the system. He's continued to use it all the time during the last 20 years. He uses it regularly. He's very happy, and his wife and kids are very happy that he's no longer the angry guy that he used to be. So I'm just telling you this because I want you to know this is possible, and this is lasting. I've been using the same system I taught Jim for over 40 years, and you can have that system too and use it for the next 40 years of your life to avoid a lot of the anger and the consequences of anger that can occur without such an understanding. So the beauty of understanding the internal causes of stress in this kind of a systematic way is that you'll find that they're very clear, they're very precise, they're not difficult to understand, and they're very actionable. You can do something about them once you know what they are. And really, it gives you the missing puzzle pieces that until now have been missing for you, which is why you haven't been able to solve a lot of your anger riddles and why you can't get rid of it. So why should you care about all this? Why should you care about this system I'm talking about, or these internal causes that I'm talking about? Well, we all know that we get angry frequently, and that anger is not healthy for us. It's not good for us. It causes all kinds of problems that we'd rather not have to suffer the consequences of. We know that anger is not healthy to be expressed around our kids, but we do, because nobody's taught us how to control our anger by understanding its root causes and dealing with those root causes. And we know that anger can put us in the hospital, can cause us to have heart attacks, strokes, all kinds of other, autoimmune diseases, all kinds of other nasty health consequences, high blood pressure, a lot of bad things that anger can do to us. So do you really want to stop getting angry, irritated, and upset? You can if you want to. Do you want to have a happy marriage, happy kids, and a long and healthy life? You can if you want to. Just like Frank and Ginny were able to do. Or like Jim was able to do. So if you get nothing more out of this talk today, I hope you get this one thing, that most people do not know how to pinpoint the internal causes of their anger. And when you know how to do this, when you know how to pinpoint the internal causes of your anger, you can become the husband or wife or the parent you always wanted to be. Now, you might be wondering, how can I learn to eliminate my anger? How can I learn about the system that I've been talking about? Well, you can do it the slow way or you can do it the fast way. The slow way is to take a number of years like I did to research these internal causes on your own, to research how to deal with them on your own, to do the trial and error that I went through to figure out how to deal with them on my own. Or you can do it the fast way, which is let me teach you all this stuff and save you a lot of heartache and a lot of wasted time and effort to understand what's really going on. I want you to know about the I Can't Believe I'm Not Angry Anymore 10-session anger elimination program that I developed and that I've been teaching people how to do over the last 40 years. This is a very powerful program, but it's not for everybody. So it's not for you if you'd rather stay angry and suffer all the consequences. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people who just rather stay angry and they won't take any initiative to do anything about it, no matter what they know about its harmful consequences. This is not for you if you'd rather make excuses about why you can't change and why you can't make things happen. And this is not for you if you resist or avoid telling the truth. We do a lot of truth telling in this 10-week or 10-session program. And you really have to get at the truth of what's causing your anger and the truth about those causes when you identify them, if you want to be able to eliminate most of the anger from your life. But if you're willing to do these things, it's possible. So remember, it's the I Can't Believe I'm Not Angry Anymore Anger Elimination Program. And you can find out more about it. I have a free report. It's very short that you can download, and it'll give you more details about the program, a little more details about anger, and see if it's something you want to do. And it'll show you how you can get in touch with me for a conversation if you want to do that. All you have to do is go to theangersolution.org, and you can download that free report. It'll also put you on my email list. And I send out emails every week to educate people about anger and stress. You can always unsubscribe if you don't want to stay on that. So I appreciate your attention. I want to thank you for listening. And remember to go to theangersolution.org and download your free anger elimination guide.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that just as much as I did. Thank you so much for all of that great information. Hey, we're not done yet, so just relax. We're going to continue on with our next speaker in just a few moments.